Tracking the pulse of the road and the future of flight, from viral trends to policy shifts, we cut through the traffic to bring you the stories that drive us. Your fast-track guide to everything on the move starts right now. From the Billionaire News Channel studio to Mellow 947 BFM, your playlist made better. I'm Paolo del Rosario. This is Shift Happen. Now, as fuel prices remain high, many Filipinos are feeling the pressure, from daily commuters to delivery riders to small businesses and even public transport operators. What used to be a basic daily expense has now become a major concern for millions of households. The current fuel crisis has reignited debates on everything from the Oil Deregulation Law to the feasibility of a national oil reserve. While many see only the price hike, the real battle for energy security is being fought in policy rooms through legislative amendments. Now, with these challenges, the focus is now shifting towards long-term solutions, from stronger energy policies, the rise of electric mobility, and renewable energy. The question remains, are we doing enough to protect Filipino consumers and secure our energy future? Now, to help us navigate the legal complexities of the energy sector, the potential for policy reforms, and what the future of fuel looks like for the Philippines, we are joined by co-convener for the Center for Energy Research and Policy Senior Lecturer of UP Department of Political Science. Please welcome to the show, energy lawyer, Attorney Noel Baga. Thank you so much for joining us, Attorney.
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here. I was going to say a while ago, your UP students must be really happy kasi you're very highly rated sa mga Rate My UP Prof Reddit threads, ganun. So I'm really happy you're here with us to teach us a lesson. So we're going to start off first with this fuel crisis, because a lot of people have been saying and have been confirming that this actually has been a predictable scenario. How the Philippine government reacted, given yung resources natin, and the constant conflict over in the Middle East. And now this latest conflict, obviously causing worldwide damage, and the crisis is there. Is it a surprise that we are in the situation that we are in?
It should not be a surprise. Nagkaroon na tayo ng... it should not be a surprise. Nagkaroon na tayo ng energy crisis in the past. Nagkaroon na tayo ng 1973 oil crisis due to the Yom Kippur War. This was the war between Israel against Syria and Egypt, wherein nag-oil crisis sa Pilipinas, and we had to go through rationing ng oil supplies during that time. No? And what did the government do after 1973? It responded by first, it established the Philippine National Oil Company, which is government-owned, and then the Philippine National Oil Company led the exploration, development, and production of indigenous and local energy sources here in the Philippines. It was PNOC which found the geothermal, which discovered geothermal energy in the Philippines, and it formed EDC, Energy Development Corporation. We became #1 in geothermal energy in the Philippines. And then it discovered the first natural gas find here in the Philippines in Isabela. And it also, it was PNOC which first discovered oil in the Nido petroleum field. Yes, and then of course, after the 1973, we also established the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to respond to future oil crisis.
Because it happened in the past, do you feel that we did not build on the gains that we have made during that crisis? Because it feels like ang dami natin nagawa at that point na siguro hindi natuloy going here to 2026.
Yes, that is true. So nung 1990s kasi, nagkaroon tayo ng paradigm shift. Wherein yung government nag-deregulate, and yung PNOC, binawasan nila yung activities ng PNOC. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve was cancelled. It was terminated. And then, dati pagmamayari ng PNOC yung Petron. So, Petron was sold to the private sector. Also, EDC was also sold to the private sector. So, nagderegulate and a lot of discretion and power was given to private oil companies. And the government was really kept its hands off sa oil industry since the 90s.
Well, the people are talking about the fuel prices in general.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that, a lot of people are still pointing at yung mga private-owned corporations,
Yeah.
like the likes of the Petrons and so on. But at the same time, the oil deregulation laws there,
Yeah.
the excise tax laws there, how much power does the government actually have in helping control these fluctuations that we see in the market today?
Very limited yung powers ng government to control these fluctuations. So under the Oil Deregulation Law, there are only two prohibited acts. One is cartelization. So pwedeng prohibited when oil companies collude and unite in concerted action to fix prices to restrain trade. So that's one. And number two, predatory pricing, where oil companies sell below average variable cost. So yun lang. And these two measures are not really to protect consumers, but to level the playing field among oil retail suppliers. So I guess yung pinaka-control lang niya is yung cartelization, to make sure that these oil companies do not collude and to fix prices in the country. But other than that, yung next one na is yung Price Act, as amended by Republic Act 10623, wherein during times of national emergency, such as now, the president can declare that oil is a prime commodity and declare price controls under the Price Act. But the president has still not used his powers to impose price controls under the Price Act. And then of course, iba pang options are yung iba pa, which are the subsidies and then the lifting of excise taxes, VAT. So these are, but it's just really under the Oil Deregulation Law and the Price Act. Yun lang talaga yung main levers ng government when it comes to these crises.
So they are big factors in impacting the price in general. I believe you take out the excise and the VAT, you could cut off a big chunk. But then it doesn't really control yung fluctuations ng prices, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is true. And at the same time, maapektuhan naman yung finances ng government na meron din naman siyang social welfare programs. So you have to balance then yung, you want to, gusto mo nating ipababain ang presyo ng langis. And at the same time, gusto naman natin na may pera pa yung gobyerno for these social welfare programs. So
so when you take out those taxes, when you take out the VAT and excise, there will be government services that will suffer. So
there will be.
Is there an ideal solution to this for the government to actually get more control in the future? And we're now looking forward here because, as we mentioned in the past, in 1973, the government did do different things to try and have a bigger control of their energy situation. Given the conflict that happened in the Middle East, is there something that this current administration could actually push for in the future, or at least in your mind, ideally, that would actually give them more control over the energy security situation dito sa Pilipinas?
Looking forward, kailangan na i-amend yung Oil Deregulation Law. We really need more regulations in the oil industry. There has to be a new law which regulates the oil industry. Dapat similar to the other Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, there should be automatic price controls on the price of oil in that law. And there should be an unbundling of oil prices from the gasoline, from these oil companies. So there has to be a new law. And there has to be, the government through the PNOC has to establish a strategic petroleum reserve. Para meron tayong extra reserve oil, crude oil, na nandito na sa Pilipinas, at dapat mag-establish din yung gobyerno through PNOC of another refinery. Kasi right now, isa lang yung oil refinery natin for Petron. But the government, kailangan meron din tayong government-owned na sariling refinery. And aside from encouraging the private sector to put up other refineries as well. So yan, yung mga kailangan natin in the long run. Let's remember sa US, meron silang strategic petroleum reserve, and every time nagkakaproblema sila may oil crisis sila or tumataas yung presyo ng oil, they release oil from the strategic petroleum reserve para makontrol yung price.
It's just really interesting because you talk about the refineries, and the Philippines did not only have one refinery for a very long time, and I believe just as late as I think 10 years ago, there was at least two at the latest. Why is it na kumukonti yung refinery and the refinery capacity ng Pilipinas in the past few years, considering that well, oil has always been big money, big business, supposedly. Why is it not, why have the refineries closed down and we only are left with one?
Yes, we used to have two oil refineries, yung sa Petron and sa Shell.
Yeah.
But then it was determined by Shell na mas profitable sa kanila to close down their refinery here and to just import from their refineries abroad.
Yeah.
So that was their business decision. But the government has to step in. Kung saan nagkukulang yung private sector, the government has to step in. And there's nothing stopping the government from establishing its own refinery here in the Philippines. Kasi dati, noong 1973, binili niya yung shares ng Gulf Oil, ng Phil Oil.
Yeah.
So it had one refinery, and then it also bought the shares it also acquired rights dun sa refinery ng Esso, which became Petron. So there was a point where dalawa yung oil refineries ng government before it consolidated it to one. So whenever the private sector cannot do its activities, its
Yeah.
petroleum activities, the government has to take the lead and establish this new refinery and take the lead sa energy activities.
We're only addressing one energy source at the moment. In fact, we should address on the other renewable energy sources when we come back. We're going to take a quick break for the meantime, so don't go away. We'll be right back right here with Attorney. We're back. We're still here on Shift Happens alongside Attorney Noel Baga. He is an energy lawyer, and of course, I've learned so much. I should attend your lectures. I want to talk about the Oil Deregulation Law first, because why was it done in the first place? And then, why should we bring it back now? What are the arguments for it?
During the early 90s, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, nagkaroon ng culture sa Pilipinas and sa rest of the world that everything has to be deregulated.
Yeah.
Everything has, the whole world has to be more capitalist, and everything must be controlled by the market, and everything will work great if everything is controlled by the market.
Yeah.
Diba yung invisible hand theory sa economics,
Yeah.
that if you leave everything to the market, it will fix itself. Pero nakita natin na it doesn't work that way. It didn't serve all countries well. We saw that nagkaroon nung late 2000, between 2005 to 2010, nagkaroon ng financial crisis.
Yeah.
We saw yung need for more regulation. And now we are having this oil crisis where we see the need, even the government itself is acknowledging the need na kailangan natin ng more regulation sa oil industry.
And with that, actually, there's also the push for different sources of energy. In fact, that's one of your specialties when you talk about the sources of energy here in the Philippines. When we look at the energy mix that we currently have, the Philippines is trying to get to, I believe, 50%, give or take, by 2030 or somewhere thereabouts in terms of renewable energy as a source of yung energy dito sa Pilipinas. Is it realistic, first and foremost? And second, where can we actually get this renewable energy? We all think solar, we all think wind, but then how do we get it all together?
The government has done very well in providing incentives to the renewable energy sector. In fact, ngayon, allowed na yung 100% foreign-owned corporations to develop and produce renewable energy here in the Philippines. So as far as giving incentives are concerned, the government has done very well. I think 2 years ago, we were the #1 most attractive destination for renewable energy investments in the whole world.
Yeah.
So we're doing very well, and I think it is possible. Ang concern lang dyan is yung energy security. So just to make sure that all of these renewable energy facilities are integrated into the grid and that they reach people, we have to modernize the grid.
Yeah, I was going to say renewable energy, new energy, but very old grid.
Yes.
The grid
yes.
is literally almost as old as I am in terms of I'm not as young as I look. Pero when we look at the grid that we have here currently, I believe it was around 30 or so years ago yung last retrofit and upgrade niya. So it's not necessarily ready yet for all this renewable energy. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. So we keep talking about renewable energy, but we need to start talking about modernizing, upgrading the Philippine grid.
Yeah.
Kasi concerned din yan ng renewable energy developers. Like if there's a really good wind or solar site, but wala namang connection yung grid doon. So how can they provide electricity to the grid? Yun yung problema eh. This is one of the concerns din ng renewable energy developers. So we need to upgrade and modernize our grid para ma-integrate niya yung renewable energy facilities. Also, yung nature kasi ng renewable, ng solar power, wind power, variable sila. It highs and lows, yung production nila. Sometimes may cloud cover, sometimes mahina yung wind. So kailangan para hindi mag-collapse yung system at ma-integrate maigay yung renewable energy facilities, kailangan talagang i-modernize yung grid.
Attorney, when we look at the way that it's being done right now,
Yes.
so one of the largest solar farms in Asia is being built here in the Philippines in partnership with Meralco and the government. Now, again, it's still the private corporation coming in. Will the grid, if we have to upgrade it, will it also have to require private intervention, or should the government have a bigger say and control over that, considering we already have the problem right now with private corporations or rather owning and controlling most of our oil? Who's to say renewable energy might be an issue in the future as well?
Yes, so we need more regulations from the government on the operations of the grid operator, National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. Because right now, yung private company na National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, they have full operational control of the Philippine grid. All planning, yung pagpaplano kung saan ilalagay yung grid, yung i-upgrade ba siya, i-modernize ba siya o hindi, these are all under the discretion ng private company na NGCP. So the government has to impose more regulations on NGCP at dapat mas involved yung government sa planning ng Philippine grid, ng transmission lines all over the Philippines. Kasi in fact, when the Philippine grid was established, it was established by the government, by NAPOCOR in the 30s, yung very first transmission lines.
Pero currently, you can say lack of oversight from the government right now on the way that the grid is actually growing or maybe not growing as much as they'd like.
Yes, absolutely. Lack of oversight and lack of regulation. So marami tayong grid interconnection projects na nandi-delay. So the government has to impose more regulations.
We have the whole topic of energy has been out there right now because of this fuel crisis, because of the fact that everyone now wants an EV as well, and the electrification of our highways has been a big issue in general. Like, how can we get more charging stations up? Do you feel that this might actually be an opportunity for those who are interested in renewable energy and energy in general to start, or rather jumpstart a change here in the way that we consume and produce our energy here in the Philippines?
Yes, absolutely. Yung electric vehicles, dahil produce sila ng electricity, we no longer need to be dependent sa imported oil, imported crude oil, imported diesel, which comes from other countries and are prone to supply disruptions and price shocks. So, ang maganda yung EVs kasi powered siya by electricity, which can be, wherein we can use our local energy resources here in the Philippines, such as solar power, wind power, natural gas, geothermal energy, para ma-power sila. And again, we just need to plan may konti lang na hurdles sa electric vehicles, sa development and implementation, but napakalaking potential, and this is the perfect opportunity to accelerate yung shift to electric vehicles.
Yeah, I remember how during the pandemic we all shifted to digitization of our money, basically using all these apps instead of paper money to do our transactions, and perhaps that this could be the boost as well for electric vehicles and of course changing the way that we consume energy here. Now, I wish we had more time, but unfortunately, this is all the time that we have at the moment. He is a co-convener of the Center for Energy Research, a policy senior lecturer at the UP Department of Political Science. He's Attorney Noel Baga. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and hopefully we can have a longer conversation to tackle all these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paolo.
All right, so that concludes our roundup of stories driving industry forward. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Join us again tomorrow on Shift Happens, your fast-track guide to everything on the move.